How's it going, Kraken fans? Welcome to Emerald City Hockey Post Game Live. RJ, another tough loss, another one that just, these games, I'm running out of different ways of describing kind of how many different struggles, or really the same struggles continuously over and over and over, the Kraken kind of have here.
This one had elements of really all of their past 3 games failures, right? We saw little bits of why they didn't do well at just different points in this game, and it just felt like more of the same from this team, despite the fact that they did score 3 goals. I guess that's the one positive takeaway from you scored a goal, that's big, but ultimately this one didn't really feel any better than the last 3. And I think we're at the point here. This team's in trouble.
This team really feels like they are in trouble. I don't know where they go from here either to fix it, right? And we did the podcast earlier and we talked about things. It's just when you continue to struggle starting games and getting going, and you continue to struggle generating shots. I mean, did they even get to 20? I think they barely did late there with the empty net stuff. Right? But like, you're barely getting to 20 shots on goal, if you can even do that. You're not generating anything. This is another game with below 2 expected goals for you. You're just not generating any sort of dangerous chances. You convert on some of them, but the defense looks porous. I just don't know. The special teams is bad. The passive PK is just absolutely killing you, especially anytime you face a team that has a good power play. They're just going to eat you alive, which is what we saw tonight.
The Avs were setting up at the top of the circles on the I don't want to go too deep into one specific issue, but they're setting up at the top of the circles on the power play. Everybody's just shrinking down. There's just so many things like that.
And the other thing being, this was a team that was dealing with a lot of issues, right? Their bottom 6 might as well be the Colorado, their AHL affiliates, team right now. And they are a one-line team, and you failed to take away their top line, right? Nathan MacKinnon gets 5 assists. He was basically like the one guy you had to go out there and really shut down, and you weren't able to do it. So it feels like kind of, failures at all different levels. Am I reading this right, though? I'm on Natural Stat Trick. The Kraken had positive expected goal share, 55%.
Oh, you're looking at 5 on 5.
5 on 5, yeah.
5 on 5, yes.
There's something.
Yeah.
And on positive.
And a lot of this game, I do want to say, was kind of power play based, really, for both teams. You look at where the Kraken got their offense. It was with the extra man. The first goal, very much power play influenced. It was right as the penalty expired. The second one is a power play goal. And the third one, you have the extra man because you pulled the goalie. So there's that. Of course, Avs answered back on their own power plays, but really, just kind of a low event game at 5 on 5 overall.
Yeah, it was.
And you take away the Kraken's first goal, which, again, power play just expired. Let's call that a power play goal. And the score is 1-1 at 5 on 5.
Yeah, true. Want to get to this, though. Don't want to let it sit any longer. It's a super chat here from Schultz. Thank you very much for that, by the way. That was frustrating. At least now they can go home, rest, practice, and hopefully get their stuff together. Otherwise, next game will be very ugly. I've been thinking about this too. Like, what does Dan do here? Right? Like, what do you do? Because today you did do the thing, right? Like, you make the call up for Winterton. You put Winterton into the lineup. You put John Hayden into the lineup. You put Cale Fleury into the lineup, right? You sit somebody like Oliver Bjorkstrand. Like, that's a significant move. Where do you go from here?
It didn't really light a fire under the guys, and the new additions. I'm sorry, but Winterton, that whole the line with Wright, Winterton, and Tolvanen, it was just getting caved in to start the game. It's a big reason why you lost. John Hayden, I didn't think he played very well. He takes a bad penalty in the game too that leads to an Avs power play. Like, the new additions weren't really helping at all. I guess you hope that it lights a fire under like an Oliver Bjorkstrand, even though, again, he was kind of the guy that was singled out, but really it wasn't just him that was the problem. It goes much deeper than that. So it's, if he had been playing really poorly specifically, and you're like, all right, well, now maybe he gets it going, but I don't think that's going to really help a ton. I don't know what you do. I mean, maybe you take these couple days. I know tomorrow's a travel day, and just be like, look, guys, just flush this. Let's forget this road trip ever happened. and just go back to practice and work hard on Thursday. I don't know how you do that.
I don't know. Right. Because again, it's not like, oh, we lost the last 4 games of the road trip, but they were close. Or, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it was just like 1 or 2 things kind of got us. Or, yeah, special teams. We kind of lost on special teams, but we looked okay 5-on-5. This was a brutal road trip. Like, you got spanked on this road trip, and
Yeah.
and you were not able to pull it together at any point. And that's got to be really tough. I don't know that you can just kind of forget that, and more importantly, I don't know that like Coach Dan is going to want them to forget that. That is him at the end of that game. I don't know if you caught him when he went to go down the tunnel.
No,
That is
I
the
didn't.
most angry and upset I've ever seen him. That's the first time I've ever looked at him and I was like, wow, I would be scared to stand in front of that man.
Huh. I did not see that. I got to go back and look at it, but I mean, I don't blame him. I
Well,
really
I
don't
don't
blame him
either.
given what the players are doing out there.
Yeah, no, I would probably feel the same way if I was in his boat. You wait all that time, get back into the NHL, and then you have a road trip like this. It's absolutely brutal. So, they've got a lot of stuff that they need to work on and figure out. And yeah, we'll see kind of where they go from here. Shane Wright here kicking off the chat. How is sitting Cartier a message to the team? You and I talked about this earlier on the deep dive. We weren't sure who was going to be sat, and we didn't even know that Hayden was also going to play, that 2 players were going to get benched here or scratched. I still don't totally agree with putting Cartier down. Like, I feel like if you're going to do somebody like Bjorkstrand, and I don't really have an issue with Bjorkstrand being one of the guys that you sit just because he has been struggling. And I've talked about he doesn't really feel like a systems fit, all that kind of stuff.
And being a high profile player, he's the guy who sends the message. If you just sit
Right.
Cartier, it doesn't send a message.
Right. So you have to sit somebody like that. But like, I don't know why you don't sit one of the other guys. Like, really send a message and sit 2 of the kind of more middle 6 established higher contract value guys.
Yeah, and I guess looking at the lines the way they went, if you're going to have Hayden come in, he fits better, in Cartier's spot than maybe, a Burakovsky or something. You don't want to put Hayden with Stevenson and Schwartz, but still at that point, I don't know why you'd make that switch. I guess, I don't know, just kind of on the margins at that point.
Yeah, it's just odd too because it's like you are facing a fast team. Colorado's gonna have last change, and they were just like anytime they saw that Shane Wright line out there, they were just like, okay, McKinnon, get out there, go for it, right? Just eat. And having Ty's speed, I feel like would have been a little helpful there. But I mean that's a hindsight call. Sean, our team is broken. B, really not the result I needed from them tonight. Riley, trade Wright while he still has any resemblance of value. I've seen enough. I don't think the Kraken should go in that direction unless you're getting a star player in return. Shane Wright is still your best bet at having a homegrown star player who's going to be able to do anything close to like what we saw Nathan McKinnon pull off tonight.
He is, and also this game was rough from him. There's no sugarcoating. It was a rough game.
Yeah.
But this is really the first one all season that you could say that about him. I think he's played pretty well up until this point. It's one game, and also with a new line mate. Look, I think if Winterton's going to have a bad game, Shane doesn't have a whole lot of help on that line. It's him, Tolvanen, and Winterton, and that's just a tough assignment, especially against some of the Colorado Stars. I'm not ready to go there at all after just one game.
No, and what I think it highlighted for me was that as positive as Shane's been, and we talked a lot on the podcast this morning about how good Shane's been. He's been the only player on this team, only forward, I should say, that has had positive expected goal share and all of that. What this game highlighted for me is that Shane Wright needs to play with a defensive winger. He needs somebody that can drop low in the defensive zone because he doesn't. Right? Like he's a guy who plays a little bit more aggressive in the defensive zone, and that got them burned on those 2 Colorado goals at the beginning there. And that made that very clear to me, was that Tolvanen's not going to be that guy. Ryan Winterton can be, but it didn't look like that's what his mentality for this game was. And both of those 2 goals, RJ, that line just gets caught so far up in the zone. They're so high in the zone. They're just not in any position to help once things go bad for the defense lower down.
I think it's clear that he needs new line mates, and I would expect to see that in a couple days when the Kraken practice. Edzo was even talking about during the game. He's like, you need to either limit their ice time severely right
Yeah.
now or switch up the lines. You have to do something, and I think Bilesma kind of chose the former, right, with only 10 minutes of ice time in this one. I think we'll see a change by Thursday.
Yeah, and it is tough when, again, you don't have last change and like they're just going to send out one of the best players in the world
Yeah.
against you and just gonna try to continue to hammer that matchup. It's a tough spot to be in for everybody involved, but it is the one that we found. But I do want to talk about, just because the original comment was about trading somebody after a road trip like this, because it is still early enough that you could conceivably turn things around here, RJ. Do you think that we see a trade to send another message? Because that would be the next level of message sending that this organization could kind of do right now.
I don't know that we see it quite yet. Again, Ron Francis is not one to panic over anything, and he's certainly not one to make a trade unless he feels like
It's
he
true.
absolutely has to. Look, I wouldn't be shocked to see it, but if I had to bet one way or the other, I'd say no, we don't see it yet.
Yeah. Um, Truly fantastic. It's incredible how they continue to look worse each game. There was zero discipline at the end there. It was rough to watch. I mean, there's a lot of that, JTB really questioned some of the coaching decisions tonight. Felt like we got out coached and outclassed. And then Bryce, I was in Japan for 2 weeks and came back just in time for the Ottawa game. What a difference from before I left to now. That has got to feel like you went into some sort of like wormhole and came out in some alternate dimension, Bryce, because this is not the team you left.
Yeah, it's not just the jet lag, I guess, but man, yeah, what a change.
Yeah. I'm still just trying to process it, RJ, because I really thought they were going to find a way to bounce back in this one, or look a little bit more alive than they have. I don't know. I had talked about it after the Ottawa game, or the Boston game, I should say, about how that game in Toronto maybe just kind of broke them a little bit. And that loss and the way it went down kind of got into the heads of everybody who was around last year. I'm starting to think that, yeah, maybe I was onto something, because it's weird to me how it takes so long for this team to kind of wake up and feel like they have to do something. And I know we've talked about that and we've been trying to think about what it is that's leading them to do that. But we saw it again tonight where, they had a flash of it early. You get Jaden Schwartz going to the crease, scoring a goal, goes in off his skates. But through so much of this game, it looked like last time, until Philip Grubauer's got to leave the net with 4 something left on the clock, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we got to show up. Let's make some passes. Let's start having some serious movement here in the offensive zone.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's kind of baffling to me too, because it used to be the third period push that you knew no matter how bad they played in the first 2 periods, they were going to put on a push in the third. And then through the first half of the third period, they have 2 shots on goal and they barely put in any kind of offensive push. It was the goalie pull that got them going. But at that point, down 2, it's almost every time going to be too little too late. That being the motivating factor, just it's not going to work most of the time. And I do feel like too, this is a team that I've been trying to avoid thinking this, because I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it just feels like this is a group of players that just tends to spiral when things go poorly. And I think you saw it with the weird challenge fiasco, whatever was going on with that whole situation, where that's a long stoppage. It ends up, well, you feel like it goes your way and then it doesn't go your way. It felt like that kind of broke them for a while as well.
Yeah, it did. This is a team that really kind of succumbs to momentum. And we were kind of, or at least I was talking about them not in that way towards the beginning of the year, because they were making so many good third period pushes, because it felt like they were doing that. But it does feel like this is a team that is very susceptible to momentum swings, and it's hard for them to generate momentum for themselves, because the way you would do that, RJ, is off of like a good power play, right? You draw a penalty, you work hard, you draw a penalty, you go out there on the power play, you make something happen. This isn't really a team that does that. It's not really a team that can generate a lot of high quality chances. You're not going to, go out there and score a goal and try to get things moving in a positive direction. It's not really that kind of group either. And so they really do struggle to not only stop the bleeding, but get anything positive going for them as well.
The other thing I wanted to point out real quick with, again, reacting to adversity in this one too, and I know it's kind of too late for it to count, but you get that bounce off the ref for the empty net goal for Rantanen. And yeah, that sucks. And it kind of ends the game for you, although you're still down two with actually over 2 minutes to go, but then everyone just loses their mind. And I mean, you see Kimber asking, I'm curious what Gord did to end his game early. There was some language to the ref. I think the camera caught a bleep you from Gord to the ref. And then, and then Montour with that unnecessary, just takes a run at Kiviranta. That's the kind of loss of composure we haven't seen from them yet.
Yeah. And it's a worrying sign, because that means that it really has gotten to them and they're feeling it. And, you hope that because they get a little bit of extra time off here, that gets fixed a little bit. I mean, you hope, and they come home, but it is a very worrying sign there. B, anyone else largely baffled by the lineup decisions tonight? Scratch someone, fine, but why Carts? Why switch up the D pairs? I don't get it. I wanted to talk about this because the D pairs are Jay. Alexiak Borgen can never happen again. It just can't. Right? Like it
was rough.
We saw it all last year. It was rough last year. Jamie Alexiak, I talked earlier about Shane Wright being the only forward with positive expected goal share this season. Jamie Alexiak has been the only defenseman with positive expected goal share. Jamie Alexiak's been playing well. I know he's been playing with Montour. Montour's been playing well. That's helped. But we saw so much of the same stuff from that D pair again tonight. And I know the coaching staff probably went to it because they're like, hey, look, they've got a lot of minutes together. They must have chemistry. You can go with that. They have chemistry, but it's bad chemistry, right? How many times they both decide to go off into a corner? They both drop below the goal line. That's, it's unreal to me how they kind of continue to play poorly with each other.
Yeah, and that's an instance too where I thought it was maybe a little bit much. Even taking Karchi out of the lineup, whatever. The forward group, to me, it's a matter of, is it broke? Do you try to fix it? That sort of thing, right? Forward group, clearly broken. They're not scoring. It's a problem. Make some change to try and fix it. I'm not going to be nitpicky about who you take out, who you put in. You're trying to push buttons here. I felt like the defense was playing well enough, particularly Montour Alexiak Montour. That D pair I thought was doing fantastic. And maybe you felt like the next D pair needed a bit of shoring up or something, but I don't know. I felt like that was going just fine. It was just the forwards' lack of production.
Yeah, it would not surprise me at all to see the D pairs back to what we'd been seeing next game. And the only thing I hope is that it didn't throw anybody off, right? This one game kind of misadventure there, because that would be unfortunate there. Lindsay, low-key malpractice from Dan not breaking up the Shane Tolvey Winterton line right after the first period. I was a little surprised to kind of see it. And I know you already talked about he went with the decision to kind of just not really use them that much. But I'm still surprised he didn't try to get at least Shane going with somebody else.
I think part of it might have been the other lines and wanting to just get more tape and more time with them and not wanting to mess with the other lines. That would be my guess, and just leave those and just see how they do. Because I think a part of being a coach when you make these decisions too is just getting basically it's an experiment, right? And you want to see how it works and getting it on tape. It was clear the right line wasn't working. So you're going to sit them, but I think he wanted to see more of the others.
Yeah. Aaron, score first. How many times can you play behind to start a game? That has definitely been an issue for them here recently. Felt like, again, just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about them being a team that could win the first and third periods, and that's how they were getting through games. And these first period starts have just been brutal. I mean, tonight, maybe not as bad as the Boston one, but like it would be hard to be as bad as that 2 games in a row. It was still not good.
No, there's definitely more to be desired there. And it's tough because it's 2.5 minutes in, you make one big mistake, it ends up in the back of your net, but that's what happens when you're playing against star players. And really, I don't think the Kraken were putting on a ton of pressure to start this one either. It's just night and day from earlier in the season, especially when they were at home. And in the first couple shifts, you knew you were getting at least 1 or 2 really good chances. And we're just not seeing that anymore.
Yeah. Via Ren, I know I said play Wright and Winterton together, but maybe not for game 1 and against Nathan McKinnon. Yeah. Again, hindsight there, because I was on board with that too. Like
I was too.
Bring up his boy, and it just that was tough for sure. Julia, I don't believe in ref conspiracies, but we have gotten some very unfortunate calls the last few games. It wouldn't have made a difference, but it still sucks. I do think there was, I mean, I was in Discord talking about it. There was a lot of confusion around the challenge and how that all kind of went down. RJ, I knew the rule about the possession and how it can go back into the zone because of a Steven Stamkos goal against the Montreal Canadiens on March 16th, 2015, where I saw a play like that happen. And I went and I tried to find a highlight of it to post in the Discord. I could only find an article talking about it. But the rule, for those who were not on the Discord for the explanation and or maybe didn't catch like Allison talking about it during the intermission report there, basically if the puck leaves the defensive zone for the Kraken in this instance, and the Kraken are the team to then put it back into the zone, Colorado can't be offsides because Colorado did not possess the puck bringing it over the blue line, which is what triggers offsides. And so because the puck comes all the way back down off of a Yanni Gourde shot that goes high, runs around the boards and comes down the ice, Colorado just it can't be offsides. They were not the ones to push it offsides because they were not the ones in possession of the puck there.
Yes, that's correct. That's how it works. And that rule is invoked not too uncommonly, really, but usually you're just right across the blue line. You're passing it back to your own guy. Usually it so rarely ever happens like this, where there's a shot that rims all the way around and somebody's in position to go get it. It's just such a rare kind of weird, fluky way in which that rule happens. But I will say they did get the call right at the end of the day. Now you can argue about the procedure, and I do want to know, I guess, how you get an announcement on that as though you've made a decision and then it still gets looked at later. I don't know what the rules of procedure is for that exactly. But look, at the end of the day, they did get the call right. And if you want to say, well, look, you wasted all this time, you're looking at the minutia of everything and, did it hit the goalie? Did it not? And there's this whole thing going all the way back. And you want to avoid that. Really, the way is just to let the call on the ice stand because it was just so close on the offside anyway. Like I'm not kicking myself over this one. Like it's the letter of the rule and the spirit of the rule say it should be a goal.
Yeah, no, there was definitely no arguments. Once that was clear and I understood what was going on, I was like, oh yeah, no, that is absolutely going to be a good goal. We've talked about this before. I've talked about this before. The lack of communication from the on-ice officials to the audience, whether it's in the arena or to those of us watching at home, is something that the NHL needs to start changing. And that's from, I've been saying that about calls that have been far simpler and situations far simpler than this, for them to just explain and just talk it out. Just give us the explanation. It doesn't take that long. These guys are already talking on the mic. It's fine. In a situation like this, where you go back to replay after making an announcement, I don't know how you do not explain what's going on, why those guys are going back. You've already made the announcement. You've talked about the clock. You've reset the clock. Like, those would be the reasons to maybe go back. Like, that was my first thought, was like, oh, well, maybe they're making sure that the clock was right. But then I was like, oh, he already said how much time should be on the clock. That's the kind of stuff that the NHL, it's not hard to just kind of get it right. And it shouldn't be, and they absolutely have to start doing that and having some better level of communication. Have Toronto reach out to the broadcasters, something.
Or it's as simple as the referee turning on the mic and saying, we're reviewing the play further or something like that. That's all you need to say. And then okay, they're looking some more. Maybe they missed something.
They're looking at something, right? So that is something that needs to be changed. I know it wasn't like an official challenge from Colorado. I would love to know how that goes down, because that was the other thing that I was thinking about. And I don't know if this is a specific rule or not, RJ, but if Colorado was just like, Bednar was just like, hey, I mean, it was off a shot, that should be like, that should matter, right?
That?
Right. Yeah. Did you look at that? And the refs go and they go, oh, we didn't look at that. Maybe we should look at that. That's fine.
Yeah, I think the refs should have the ability to, if they realize there's something they didn't see or look at, to go back and look at it and make sure.
As long as play has not started up again, I feel like them going back to look at something is okay. is what I was trying to get at. I just didn't really know how to say it.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, I guess, where also, if you're going to be, I guess, a little nitpicky, you'd like that communication from Bednar to the officials to happen earlier, to be like, hey, look, this is where it, like, there's something that happened here. Although maybe it took the video staff a while to rewind back and make that argument and see it.
Well, and you don't know how it's going to go. Like, you don't know how close the offside is, right? Like, there's no point in you saying
that's true. If it's not offside, if the skate is not there and the puck, if that part isn't even offside, then there's no point. But good point.
Yeah. Let's see. Christian, don't know how, but we got to get a win on Friday before the skills competition.
Very true. It's going to have such a damper on it if they've lost 8 of 9 to that point.
Yeah, it'll be rough. Although, hey, maybe that'll be the thing that kind of kickstarts them, and then they go on some like long, 7-game win streak or something. Because that is something we've seen with this team before, is that they can be streaky in a positive way too. If you do have something that kind of gets them moving in the right direction, they can keep that going for a little while.
I mean, it's all set up for it. You have this game against Vegas, which is going to be very difficult. Like, Vegas is a good team, but if you can beat them, you got Columbus, Chicago, Islanders. Like, that could be a springboard to just go, but you got to get that first one.
Yeah. Storm, Wright is young, a good skater, works hard, but does not win many board battles. Pucks knocked off his stick easily, makes a lot of blind passes, looks like a rookie. I mean, he is a rookie. So there is that going for him. But I still think this was really, like you said earlier, the first bad game he's had. Like, he has not looked like that the rest of this time. And to be fair to him, it looked like he was trying to think more offensive, which is what we've been talking about. It was just that he had to also be playing against Nathan MacKinnon. And there was just going to be no way for him to do both of those things.
Yeah, and you look at the first goal against too, right? Where it's him and I think Tolvanen up along those boards. He is trying to chip it up and fly the zone. They want to go. They want to create a 2-on-1. It doesn't go their way, but that's where his mind is at. Looking at it, you can clearly tell that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah, and so like that was another thing that was so frustrating about it, was that this was the first time where it did feel like Shane Wright was trying to focus on offense, especially in the offensive zone. The little bit that they were there, he was really attacking the slot again. Like, it did in a lot of ways, him with Winterton did look like Coachella Valley when they were attacking off the rush. It did look like what they were doing with the Firebirds. It was just they were so unable to do it with any sort of frequency that it just didn't matter. And that's unfortunate. And again, I think that was a largely matchup dependent, but after the performance tonight, we're not seeing that again for a long time.
No, I'm sure we're not. We got a super chat here from Riley. Hackstall is smirking in a local Albertan pub right now.
Probably.
His unfiltered thoughts on how the Kraken are doing so far.
That would
never get him. But
no, you would never get them, but that would absolutely be something. But I mean, we talk about it so much. This is now 2 different coaching staffs, 2 completely different systems, and you're running into the same problem.
And Sean making that connection right below, he had the same roster, more or less.
Yep. Let's see. Savvy, there've been too many changes all at once. I'm unfortunately not sold on Wright. I'm really surprised. Like, I get it. He had a bad game and he was out there for that. But I mean, it has just been a lot of negative around Shane Wright here so
I'm
far. I'm
surprised to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, because he doesn't have the points. So I get that he hasn't had that kind of production.
And I can't really defend his play, certainly in the D zone, like this game. I can't really defend his play this game, but this isn't what we've seen.
Right. And again, I mean, he's thrown out there against Nathan MacKinnon. Like, Nathan MacKinnon is just that good. He makes a lot of guys look bad. Like, that's just kind of what he does. So I don't know. Jake, though, here, trying to be constructive with it. Maybe Schwartz with Wright. His D play has been pretty good this season. That would be one. This is another one where, again, I like Shane Wright with Jared McCann. Jared McCann is very good defensively. He drops down low in the defensive zone. When he's playing on the wing, he really likes to kind of take over defensively and play like a center. And so that would be a really good option, I think. Schwartz would be a better option than certainly Tolvanen or Ryan Winterton, I think. You could find a way to have done this. let's see. Viren, do we think this game would have looked better if they had scratched multiple middle sixers, or are we saying we would have been fine with completely giving up this game for the sake of sending a message? I think you do look better in this game if you have Ty Cartier instead of John Hayden. I don't know that you look much better, but you do look better.
I agree with that. I think Cartier doesn't take a bad penalty. You can probably play him a little bit more. And I think there is an element of it where, look, you probably do a little bit better if you have Bjorkstrand in the lineup rather than a Winterton. Like you almost certainly look better, but you do have to make some sacrifices to send a message when your team is at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Arthur, your ongoing assumption the coaching is good is faulty. All right. I mean, you can follow that up with something. Like tell us then, you know, what about the coaching it is, because I really think it's just this group. I just that's where it is. And Amanda's saying we are getting close to Dan's give us 20 games. I mean, this will hopefully like level off some of that chart that we were talking about, but it's still rough.
Yeah, we got 6 games to go till the 20 game mark. So basically it's just this next homestand. That's it, the 6 game homestand. And then that's right at the end of it is game 20.
Yeah. Let's see. Savvy, I doubt it'll come up by Kraken uppers, but do you think that Tim and Brady would roll the tape back further before telling the coach to challenge? I could totally see them being so focused on the offsides thing that you just don't even think about that other thing, because again, I've never seen it.
Yes. It's so rare that kind of thing will happen. Also, the other thing, they are under a time constraint in order to challenge this play.
Yes.
They're under a time constraint that the Avs don't have, because then they're already looking at it and they can tell them to look at whatever. But if you're going to rewind the tape, and I know it was the Avs had a little time in the offensive zone that they could, that you could look at that. I don't know that they had enough time to definitively go back that far, even if they identified and saw it, to definitively say whether Annunen got something on that puck, whether that shot hit the goalie or whatever, with any kind of certainty that you can tell the coaching staff. And when they ask for a call, challenge or not, you got to give them a yes or a no. It's a really tough one. So I don't know if they saw it. I don't think we'll ever know if they rebound that far. But even if they did, I just don't know how anybody could have said it with enough certainty. And in that situation in the game too, if that goal stands, that's really tough. You're down 2, you're going to have to score 5 goals on the Avs to win. That probably tips the scales in favor of a challenge a little bit more as well.
Right. And
especially if you know for sure that it was, offside. Like the puck was in there before, or the player was in there before the puck.
Right. You take your chances on the challenge. I feel like knowing that it was definitively offsides as far as the puck entering after the player, and then you roll the dice on, is there an angle that shows whether or not the goaltender touched it? Right. Like that does feel like the thing you're doing there. And hey, look, they almost got away with it, right? Like even if you did see it and that was the calculation you made, and you're just like, well, we'll roll the dice on them even noticing, much less them and actually finding something that doesn't show it. Like they did almost get away with it. Yeah. And so I
feel like this one might have been the dueling video coaches on this one, right? Because like, maybe can we get away with this? And the other video coaches scrambling, like, wait, no, we caught this.
Yeah.
I would love to hear the behind the scenes of both video rooms just talking about this one as it was happening.
Would have been fascinating. Jeremy, games like this are proof how crucial superstars are. 5 assists by Nathan MacKinnon effectively beat us himself. It's true. Like that is what guys in this league can do. When you have one of those superstars, this is what they are capable of. You are going to win some games just because of them on some nights. And that is something that, as we've talked about many times before, the Kraken just are lacking.
Yeah, we've talked about it so many times. Stars just provide something that you can't really replicate otherwise.
Yeah. And I mean, I know Julia bringing that up here. The Avs are half AHLers at this point, so I assume MacKinnon has been carrying them. I mean, MacKinnon and Makar both have points in every game that the Avalanche have played so far this year. Like it has very much been them doing it.
Not to add to the negativity though, but also Kel Makar missed like almost the entire third period, if not the whole third period in this one too. And it didn't really move the needle much for the Kraken putting on a push.
Yes. Amanda, Monty is the vibe I would like in a captain, if I'm honest. Maybe that's wild to say so soon, but he just has the hunger and positivity. I mean, that's something we talked about before they named Jordan Eberle captain, and we both kind of talked about that probably being a good idea to go in that direction with him. That's the only other thing that I could think of that you could do as an organization, and this would be more extreme, I feel like, than even trading somebody, is if this was to like continue, you could make a leadership change, right, to try to send a message. But oh my gosh, that would be insane.
There is no way that people in charge of this team right now would ever do something like that. They just wouldn't. That would be having to admit kind of a massive failure so soon. There's no way they would never do it.
I know, but I'm just laying all the options on the table.
Yeah.
As far
maybe
as
the
like
next
what
opponent,
you could do. Yeah, like what you could
maybe
do.
Vegas might do something like that in a similar situation.
Vegas would absolutely do that.
No way.
They would do that so fast. Bryce, fun stat. Chandler Stevenson has 9 shots on goal this year.
He's not a shooter. We knew that. We knew that about him.
Yeah. Let's see. Some talk about how the whiplash that Montour must be feeling after leaving winning the Stanley Cup and then joining this team from Brooke. I'm sure it's a lot. I'm sure this whole road trip has been a lot of whiplash for him with the birth of the daughter and then coming back and everything. Some people agreeing about Montour needing to be named captain there. Virginia, how do they improve their scoring? Drills?
I mean, I think part of it, we talked about it a lot in kind of longer form on the podcast today about things that they could do. I'd say, the deep dive kind of had better ideas than we can get to in this time frame. Practice is going to be part of it, just increasing the coordination. Maybe, as you talked about on the podcast, changing up the neutral zone strategy a little bit, how you try and get zone entries. Mm-hmm. But I think we both have kind of come to the conclusion that there's only so much they can do given the players that are on this team.
Yeah, similar to the discussion that we've been having around Shane Wright, a lot of this is at some point you just need players to change their mentality. And it's hard to do that as a veteran player. It's a lot easier to do it as a guy who is in his first full season of playing NHL hockey, because you're still figuring things out, figuring out what you can get away with and building your habits. It's a lot harder to go to Jordan Eberle or Chandler Stevenson and be like, hey, I know you've been around for however many games, 700 something games. We need you to just start playing completely different.
It's tough.
It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot easier said than done.
It definitely. Let's see. Amanda, coach seems absolutely dejected and is giving disappointed dad vibes talking to Piper. I'm very curious to go and listen to that.
I'm going to go back and look at that.
Edward, at this point, I think they need to drop the super from the super skills showcase. Heck, I think the skills might even be in question at this point. Oh, it's brutal out there on these mean streets of the ECH post game live section, RJ.
It'll be a showcase.
It will be a showcase. Jeff, they need to go back to fundamentals. So many simple things that are mistakes that add up throughout the entire game. I was really disappointed, RJ, to see them after the first period kind of drop trying to go to the net, right? Because you were rewarded for it. Jaden Schwartz goes to the crease, gets the goal, you're back in the game, and then that just kind of like disappeared somewhere off into the ether. And I don't know what happened there, because that was the kind of stuff we were talking about. That is a way that you can do this, especially against an opponent like this that is kind of a one-line team, doesn't have a lot of depth right now. They're dealing with an unbelievable amount of injuries. Go out there, play a hard-fought game, play a greasy game, and just try to grind out a 2-1, 3-2 victory and just get things going in the right direction. And it looked like for one shift they were going to do that, and then they just stopped.
Yep. I was so encouraged too, because they got rewarded for it. You scored a goal with the player who scored it literally being entirely in the goal crease. Like that is exactly where you need to go. I guess, not if you're going to interfere with the goalie, but still, like it was such a good proof of concept. And I thought, okay, this is great. It's clicked. They figured it out. They're going to go to these areas more. And it just didn't continue.
Yes. Hey, here I kind of prefer watching games at home, because at least the commentary will clue me in versus being at the game and being wholly confused and down hundreds of dollars. And then that works for most situations. Probably it didn't totally work tonight, as we were all just confused together, including them in the broadcast booth. But yeah, and Kylie saying, I get it was overall the correct call, but it was confusing in the way it was executed. Why did Bednar get to challenge the challenge after Toronto had already ruled on it? I don't think that he challenged it. Like
he
that's
didn't
the
get to
key thing
challenge the
here.
challenge.
Yeah,
That's the
I
key
know.
thing.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sorry. I know Edzo kept saying that, and so it like made it sound like he had challenged. But I do not think he ever challenged it. I think all he did was go, but hey, they are the ones who sent it into the zone. Did you look at that? And they went, oh, wait a second.
Yeah, we didn't look at
Like we
that.
need
Hold
if
on.
we're
Let me look
you're
at this.
right.
Let me
If
be
we're
sure.
stopping things and things are still stopped, we have to make sure we got this call correct. And they went back to look at it.
Yeah.
And so
Which
like
is ultimately what I want the officials to do if they're made aware of
yes.
something like that.
Right. And it's overall it sucks because well, one, it went against the Kraken. That sucks. But it kills the momentum of the game and everything. Like it takes a long time. But you and I both remember games, RJ, where playoff games that were decided or it felt like decided off of situations like this before replay was brought in. And that was really brutal.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
Don't want that.
Let's see. Gosh, Brooke, has a skill showcase ever had booze? Lol. No, I don't think this one will either.
No, it won't.
But it's tough. It's tough.
I mean, it might end up needing to be the kind of fun, relaxing time that they need and just see the fan support and kind of just take the pressure off of everything. I don't know. It might, if they lose to Vegas, that's what it's going to need to be.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that I was thinking about too. Is like this would be a really good time actually for the fans to show up, cheer them on, bring that positive energy that they could use, and try to turn something around with. And I think that would be good. And I do think that they're going to get that. Like that's what Kraken fans do.
It is. It's one of the special things about this fan base. And it's kind of fitting, I feel like, that we're talking about it after a loss to the Colorado Avalanche, because that's one of the moments that's stuck with players since year one. You're down 7-0 to Colorado in your home building, and you allow a breakaway and it's saved. And the fans, everyone gets up on their feet and cheers to just support the team and cheer them on. Year one, as bad as things were going, that's the kind of special quality I think Kraken fans have, where, I mean, and everybody in here, if you're in here talking about this game, doing Emerald City therapy with us, right? I know you're part of that group. As negative as we can get, we're all still here because we follow this team and support the team.
Right. And I think this next comment here kind of sends that home from Jeremy. RJ and Dylan, it's not a super chat, but I'd like to give you guys credit for doing this night in, night out with the ups and downs. An hour plus every night. I couldn't do it. There have been times where it's been very challenging. Not gonna lie. Tonight, maybe at first one of those nights. But yes, it's only made possible because of the support we get from everybody here. The fact that we can usually end up kind of joking about something on the back half of it and generally leave feeling okay-ish about what happened is the reason why we can continue to do it.
Yeah, and even in the toughest games right after, where we get on here and we're just like, oh geez, we have to do this now. And then by the end of it, I think we both always just feel so much better and happier and glad we did it.
Definitely. Coop, trying to stay a bit positive. I was pretty impressed with the push during the empty net. I don't feel like I saw that in years past. They really grinded that goal out and it made me proud. Again, that has been the one key takeaway to have these last couple games, RJ, is like they do try in the last 10 minutes of the game. They really do come out there.
And that shift, especially too, they actually had some of that killer mentality that never let up. And even though, what was it, Parker Kelly had those 5 shot blocks, I felt bad for him on that shift because, man, what more can you do to try and keep a puck out of your net and it still scores? But that's one where you have to smell blood and you have to go in and convert and not let them off the hook. And the Kraken did that. Just want to see it more over the course of a game when it's not 6-on-5.
Yeah, exactly. Storm, not hate on Shane Wright. He's been hyped this season, but has not been that impressive, and not even counting this game. He may yet become a star, but that is years away. It could be. I mean, there's a lot of guys that it's taken a couple of years for, top picks in that position. I think of Lafreniere with the Rangers. I think of Quentin Byfield with the Kings. That it does take a little bit of time sometimes with those guys for them to develop and kind of figure out where they're going to be, especially with both of those players. Similar situation here with Shane Wright, RJ, where it's a player who joins a team that already has an established core, right? It's a high draft pick. You're talking about first, second, and fourth overall with these guys. They join teams that have established cores that have had kind of, in the other guys' cases, winning cultures, and they have to start, bottom six roles. And they start slow because of that, because they're not getting ice time. Their job out there on the ice isn't really what they're used to doing. It's not putting them in the best position for them to have counting stats and all of that stuff. But then once they're given the opportunity to work their way up the lineup, play with the better players out there, we've seen what Quentin Byfield has turned into. We've seen what Lafreniere has turned into in those situations. I don't see a reason why Shane Wright wouldn't be any different from those two.
I could see him following a similar path. It's just tough because given where this roster's at, they're relying so much on him this year if they want to make the playoffs. But the bigger picture is going to be more important in the long run.
Definitely. Let's see. Zoe here with the super chat. Thank you very much, Zoe. Can I get one thing from each of you to be positive about this team moving forward? I just need something good tonight, please. I still think there's positives. I feel like the goaltending has been a recent positive. There's been that. I think the defense usually has been a positive. Brandon Montour has been a positive, that kind of stuff. Again, you did technically outplay Colorado at even strength tonight, or at least at 5-on-5. And that is something, right? Like you were able to go out there and do that, which, you should have, but we were talking about them needing to get right in a situation like that. You brought it up. 1-1 at 5-on-5. That is positive momentum for this group.
Yeah. And for my positive thing, it's one game until Vince Dunn comes back. And as much as it is not ideal to be so reliant on a player like that, I think we just have to face the fact that the Kraken are really reliant on him, but they are so much better when he's in the lineup. And he's going to come back right at a time where you're playing Columbus, Chicago, the Islanders. It's a stretch where you can go on a run. And if he is ready to come back, and we don't know, but he's eligible at least. If he comes back right then, I think you're very much in a position where you can go on a run. And I think that is the kind of thing that can give this group a jolt. If they are spiraling, if they are feeling unconfident in themselves, all it takes is Vince Dunn making a play in the first period of his first game back, and this team could be just set mentally. I really do think he makes that much of a difference.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where him being around for longer and being able to be in the lineup consistently for a little bit of time also probably then makes it easier for the next time when he does leave the lineup, right? Because it would just allow guys to play the system more, right? It allows them to kind of get a feel for it, which has been a struggle. I know we were talking earlier about we're getting close to that 20 games. They haven't really been able, they played about 4 or 5 games with Vince Dunn where they did play the system and they were working towards that 20 games. And then Vince Dunn goes out and they kind of had to change some things up. And I don't know that those games really count towards the 20 games just because you're not playing what you want to be playing right now. And Vince Dunn allows you to play what you want to be playing. And then you can start that counter again. And the forwards will get more and more comfortable with it. They'll start finding ways of being able to be creative within it more and more, just being able to play it. That creativity, I know we've been talking about the kind of lack of offensive creativity for a lot of these guys. It is hard to be creative when you're still actively trying to think about what your positioning needs to be, where your line mates are supposed to be, and all of that kind of stuff. The creativity does tend to come a little bit later on into playing into a system, maybe even a whole year later, where all that stuff becomes second nature. It's muscle memory for you. So now you can start focusing on other things, right? Just to kind of give them some credit, whatever, take something off of their plate. So I think having Vince Dunn back just allows you to start progressing towards that end goal again in a way that ideally you'd like to be doing that, but you just kind of haven't been able to.
Yeah, no, that's all well said.
And again, positive point, Jaden Schwartz went to the net, and it was rewarded. And
watch that first goal on repeat.
Yep, next game, just come out there and do that a bunch, and hopefully you get it. Let's see here, Edward. The way the NHL operates, they probably had to rewind the tape manually, and that's why the whole situation took so long.
It's actual tape. Yes.
Yes, I would not be surprised, RJ. um, that is good. That is good. You can always count on Edward with the good
Oh
one
yeah.
there. Let's see. Another positive. Probably going to see Montour with Alexiak again.
Yes, we will get that back. That'll be nice. Yeah,
that's a good one. That's a good one. Let's see. Kylie, people need to accept we're an expansion team. We won't get a superstar soon. We'll might be mediocre for a while. People forget what expansion teams look like because of Vegas, the one anomaly. And that is true, right? Like this has been the classic kind of expansion team setup.
That's usually the kind of adversity that
From a
expansion team
results
will go through.
standpoint.
From a results standpoint, yeah, exactly. It's never immediate, except in just the one case of Vegas.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Viren, I want to talk what blowing up this roster would look like, but that's an armchair GM talk. Way too complicated and negative for a post game.
Yes, and we can absolutely go into that on the Armchair GM stream. In fact, I probably will end up doing that. Got to pick a date for it. I'll have that probably out pretty soon with the Patreon schedule. But it's going to be an interesting Armchair GM stream, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and yes, apologies on the Patreon schedule being slow. Is mostly because of my travel and everything. Kind of waiting for me to get back so we could set it all. Edward, any chance that we can be the trap game for Vegas? I do think there's a chance for that, RJ, because look, it's hockey. No team is going to win 82 games. No team's going to lose 82 games, right? The Kraken are going to come around at some point. And here's the thing. I remember back in season 2 when we were the trap game for Vegas and we were able to go out there and grind out a win and kind of catch them by surprise and catch them looking a little ahead in their schedule. So I think it's doable.
It's happened before. And Vegas, yeah, they've won 5 out of their last 6. They've got to be feeling confident. It wouldn't surprise. Actually, they'll have Edmonton before the Seattle game, so that'll be interesting. We'll see how they do against the Oilers, but especially if they beat the Oilers too, which is going to be, I think, ultimately important in the standings, even though Edmonton's not up quite there yet. That'll be a real good opportunity for a trap game.
Yeah. And an AutoCat, whatever happens Friday, we need to be there at the skills showcase to cheer on the boys and support them and show them love. At the end of the day, we have a hockey team, and that is really important.
It's the biggest positive, really.
Yeah. 5 years ago, that was not the case.
Yep.
Let's see. Daniel, were Geeky, Sprong, Donato really that much better than Turbo, Gord, and Cartier?
In a word, yes. For me, look, they produced a heck of a lot more, and whatever their defensive deficiencies in relation to Turbo, Gord, Cartier, it didn't even come close to equaling out. They produced at a ridiculous scale. You could argue they wouldn't have done that a second season had you kept them together, but in that 1 year, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think there was elements of the games. Like, I'd really like to kind of mix this group up, to be honest. Like, if you could build it and keep some of them and not others. Like the big thing with Ryan Donato, right? It was the net front presence. He is a net front presence guy. We're seeing him do it with Chicago and how important it's been there for them. I would love to have Donato around right now and being that net front presence. And he's just one of those guys that you can kind of throw with anybody and he kind of fixes them for a little while just because of the way he plays there. What?
Did you know this, Dylan? He has 7 goals in 11 games for Chicago so far this season.
I knew he'd been scoring. I did not realize it was that aggressive.
7 goals in 11 games.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be nice right now. Not gonna lie, but he played the right way and he played the way that you kind of wanted him to play. And
that would be the leading goal scorer on the Kraken. Sorry. I don't want to get.
We're in the last 10 minutes. We could try to be positive.
This is positive about Ryan Donato. We all love Ryan Donato. He's wonderful.
Everybody does. So I think there's elements like that I would like to have around. I don't know.
Sorry if I threw you off there.
No. I mean, it's tough too because like Gord was around for that. Turbo was around for that year's team. They were playing higher in the lineup actually.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. I really like Ty Cartier though. I do feel like Ty is kind of better than Sprong in some ways. He's not going to score as much as Sprong, but you just kind of don't have to worry about him. And he's got such a consistent effort each and every night.
Yeah. And again, I like Ty. You know, I'm a big Daniel Sprong fan. So I
know.
pick him over a lot of guys, but that's just me.
Yes. Yeah, in the NHL world, you are either a Daniel Sprong guy or you're not.
Yep, I am. You're not so much, but
Yeah.
that's okay. We can agree to disagree.
Yeah. And then Sean here with a couple positives. Bowie's the coolest mascot in hockey, no doubt. I think that's definitely a positive the Kraken have. And then also so glad we have Joey Decord. He's a great representative for the Seattle Kraken. Yes, he did do a podcast interview with who was it? It's what Pete Blackburn's guys.
Oh yeah, what's that? What is it called?
I don't remember offhand what it is, but if you go out there, you can find it. Joey Decord, on the East Coast, did a podcast there, and I heard that was really good and good insight into kind of his processes and everything, as he always does. And there's also like just on the media side of things, talking to Joey is so fantastic, especially after kind of like nights like tonight. Like because he finds a way to talk about like, oh yeah, this thing happened, we got to work on that, whatever. But then like there was this positive thing, and he's always able to kind of find the positives no matter kind of how bad the team plays. And so I just want to let you all know that, because it's not, you guys don't get to see the whole post-game interactions
Right.
with everybody all the time. Just know that Joey Decord, after games like tonight, if he's in net, he says plenty of positive things about the team, and he generally has a pretty optimistic outlook as far as their ability to kind of go and improve from there.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy you wish you could request for media after every game.
Yes, that is.
You obviously can't,
true.
but if you could.
Have a good night, Pablo. There, you're very welcome, Zoe. Byron, I still think about a segment from the PDO cast last season about Sprong's absolutely unshakable confidence. I wonder if it was contagious. I mean, you would know better than I, being in that locker room. I don't know. Was it?
I feel like it might have rubbed off on some guys. I think so. Again, he's got this interesting personality, and he's good at the friendly trash talk and stuff too. I think he kind of creates that environment of like friendly competitiveness as well that I just love to see. But it's more, it's not for everybody, I guess, but I loved it.
Yes. Christian, there's a whole rest of the season. We know the team is better than this. That is true, right? Like we know this team is capable of winning and going out there and doing stuff here. Daniel Edzo was really trying to speak the Tolvi one-timer back into existence. He was last time too, right? Like he's really been trying to push that. I mean, maybe we see it at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if Edzo still sees something worth believing in it and worth trying to push it, then I trust his eye.
Yeah. It looks like What Chaos is the podcast that Joey
that's
was
the
on.
one. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Lindsay and Viren there. Viren adding that it was really good. So it's on my list of things now that I'm back to kind of catch up on. And B, it was a very fun interview, and Jess had a good one with the Empty Netters podcast recently too. Yeah. Jess really had to make the media rounds going to the East Coast there. I was her getting all the emails from all of that going on. Real trooper going through all that. Let's see. Byron, we should have been discussing abolishing the red line rule and playing Joey net front on the power play. Do they talk about that on the pod? That would be awesome.
Oh, that'd be great.
That would be awesome. Brooke, did y'all catch when Forsland said he was going to schedule a lobotomy on the broadcast?
I did not.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't catch it. That sounds like him.
It was kind of after one of Eddie's rants.
Yeah.
And that was like his way of bringing it back around and just kind of like closing that door and being like, okay, we're going to talk about hockey now.
The Forsland bobblehead over there doesn't say that. That's not one of the lines.
The bobblehead says. On there.
No, I haven't heard that one.
Surprising. That didn't make it through through all the PR checks and everything for the bobblehead. I'm surprised. And then Lindsay adding also that Empty Netters podcast with Jess Campbell was incredible. Go listen and love our coach even more than you already do. It was neat having Jess be the interview on the broadcast tonight during that second intermission after the whole challenge was successful, challenge unsuccessful kind of thing, and kind of getting her insights on that, because she is kind of the point person for the video coaches there on the bench.
You notice a close call too, she's immediately like listening to her headset and talking to people. She's the one who's doing that.
Yeah, So that was neat. And then Zoe, can we have the discussion about staying out of the box again? Yanni has 30 pims in less than half as many games. Is that, I wonder if that's counting tonight, because he would have gotten a decent amount for heading out early, right?
He had 20 going into this one, and then that would be the 10.
That would be
yeah,
the
10
10
misconduct.
Okay.
So, but there's still a lot of minor penalties in there.
There is a lot of minor penalties. I was just going to say, didn't he have another one though this year? Have we seen him thrown
He
out
must,
early?
because 20 is a lot. He must
Yeah, there's
have.
no
But
way he
let's
took
see.
that many minor penalties.
I'm going.
I feel like there was something from earlier where we saw a
it
similar
was a fight
situation with him.
or
Okay,
two
a fight.
fights.
Two fights.
It's two fights,
Yeah.
not yeah.
Yeah. So that it helps a little bit then, because then you're talking about 5 minor penalties instead of 10.
Yeah. Yep. That's 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, I think overall as a team, they can act. That is one of the things that they can work on. It's probably not the most urgent thing to address, but it's one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And Zoe, we had the same number of penalty minutes as we did shots on goal tonight.
Hit 20 in both.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's not end on that one.
Yeah. Let's see what else.
Amanda, on a positive, it was nice seeing coaches getting fired up, standing and sending a message, and being more open with us about what we're looking at. That is true. That is a big positive, and I think that, Dan talked about that earlier. You and I both listened to the post morning skate scrum that he had, and he was very open about like the benching of Bjorkstrand and the message being sent there, and that it wasn't just like a message to him but to the rest of the guys, talking about needing to get net front and all of that kind of stuff. I'm very curious to hear what he has to say tonight, because look, if there is one thing I know about him, having been at multiple post games in Coachella and then now with the Kraken, it is that he is going to take a second, think about things, and think about what message he does want to send to the fans before he goes and talks to the media. And so I'm very, very curious to hear what he has to say tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the first thing I'm going to go do after this, is just go see what he has to say and what quotes come out of it. Because I think that's something that's going to color some of my takeaways from this game too, is looking at how Dan saw it.
And as Byron's pointing out, infinitely better than what message there's no message.
Yes. I remember that from Hackstall late last season.
That all-timer. Yes. All right. I think we're going to end it there, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. After this one, thanks to those of you that gave the super chats, Schultz, Riley, and Zoe. Really appreciate that a lot. Want to thank you all. Yeah. Just for hanging out and again, helping us go through this therapy session.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. I feel a lot better than when we started. That's for sure. And you know what? They're coming home. Kraken are coming home. We'll get to see them again soon.
That is true. And again, Super Skills Showcase less than a week away. That's something positive as well. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing the Kraken back at home, and we will see you all next time.